AA.
Good morning. I'm going to run through the assembly and installation of a nice tractor toolbox that fits on the rollover protection system of most tractors or lawn mowers. I'm going to be mounting this on my John Deere 3032e tractor, which I use around the farm quite frequently. To get started, we're going to install a small toolbox, the main tool basket, a mounting bar, 2 sliding mounting bars, and then some shovel brackets. It also comes with a little cup holder. I don't need that. I've got a cup holder in the tractor itself. So to get started, I like to lay everything out, do a quick inventory, see what I've got, see what might be missing. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. There really aren't that many pieces involved. I do actually read the directions. The directions in this case are simply pictures and don't really come with any explanation, but the toolbox will fit or mount in these 2 holes on the front side of the basket, and that part's pretty straightforward. Now, what I opted to do was, and you've got a choice with this, you can either have the nut side inside the basket or the nut side inside the little toolbox. And the way that it comes shipped, it makes it look like they want to have the nut side inside the little toolbox. That's a fairly small box, and I don't want to scrape my hands on any nuts that may be sticking out, so I mounted this with the flat side inside the little toolbox. But in all honesty, it doesn't really matter. So this consists of a bolt, a nut, and a washer, and you simply screw that in, tighten your nuts, and then you're done with the little toolbox. Pretty straightforward and simple. It does come with a little Allen wrench to be able to hold the bolt in place while you're screwing in your nut. In fact, it does come with a full set of small tools. I use my own tools because, well, they're better than the miniature tools that they offer, but they do have the tools in case you don't have any. So the next step is going to be install the main mounting bar on the tool basket itself. Now, this is where there was a little bit of a difference between what was shown in the directions and what I actually received. Now, that bar should be, the brackets on either end should be the same width as the tool basket itself, maybe slightly wider so that you can fit it together without any problem. And then the directions show that you have 1 bolt on the side and then 1 bolt on the back side of the mounting bracket. In my case, it had 2 holes on the side, and my mounting bracket was about a 1/4 inch longer than the main tool basket itself. Now, I went ahead and tried to assemble it just to see how much space I was dealing with, and you'll see here in just a moment, after I get the bolts in and I looked at it, I saw, you know something, in order to make this a little tighter and be able to hold up to the rigors of the work on the farm, I needed to throw some spacers in there. So what you'll see here after I get this snugged up just a little bit that I stop and bring out a couple washers, and we decide to go ahead and add that in there. But other than that one little hiccup, this part is fairly straightforward. And I also, before I put those spacers in, I also put the sliding brackets on. You can just simply take off the little wing nut on top, slide it in so that the wing nut is in the slotted portion of the mounting bar. And you do that for both sides. It doesn't really matter what direction the bolts and brackets are sticking out, as that'll all be adjusted later when you get ready to mount it onto the tractor or lawn tractor, whichever you're going to actually assemble this with. Okay, here at this point nothing is really tight, but this is when I decided to go ahead and bring out the washers and put those washers in. I have a nice pack of washers that I also got off of Amazon, and put those in so that it took up the slack so that I could tighten everything down pretty well and it would remain secure while operating the tractor. And I will show a little bit better picture of that here as soon as I get that assembled. There is not a lot of room to insert your washers in there, but it can be done. I put the washers on one side rather than putting some on one side, some on the other to take up the space. Putting them on one side made more sense because of the location and the difficulty of being able to slide a washer down in there in that enclosed little slot. So once it was installed, this is what the washers look like, and then everything was nice and snug with the overall assembly. Other than that one little hiccup, everything else fit together very easily. Here you see I'm installing the shovel brackets. These are little brackets that allow you to be able to mount a shovel or any other handled type tool, and then includes some straps right on the little brackets themselves, where you can just simply lay it down, strap it down, not have to worry about it falling out if you rub up against some branches or something like that while you're moving to the work site. Now, for me, this is especially handy because I do a lot of work out in the woods with the tractor. I use my tractor for clearing and other things out in some fairly narrow spaces out in the woods. Those bolt on simply with a bolt, a washer, and then a lock nut. Now at this point, once I get those tightened up, everything's snug but not tight. And I do that so that it'll make mounting onto the rollover protection system a little bit easier. I can make some adjustments and then go back and just snug things up as necessary to ensure that everything fits properly. You just have to remember to do that. So this is a lot easier if you have two people. I didn't have two people, I just had me. So rather than trying to manhandle everything and try to hold it up just by myself, what I did is I used two clamps to hook over the top of the rollover protection system and just hang it into place until I could get each side around and just with the nut snugged on there just a little to hold it in place. That way I didn't really have to struggle with it very much. This is not overly heavy, but it is enough that it's a little awkward if you're working up there on the tractor like that. So once I was sure that everything was fairly solid, then it's simply a matter of putting the bracket around the rollover protection system. It looked like you could either mount this above or below the hinged section of the rollover protection bar. I decided to go above. That gives me a little bit better view out the back. There you see that one of my brackets, or one of my clamps, fell off. That's because it was no longer needed at that point in time, and there was really no real struggle there, just simply it came out of place where it was used to hold up the side initially. And now I've got both sides just on there with the nuts on there loose, and it's a matter of bringing over a ratchet and a wrench and tightening everything up. This part was relatively simple, but they give you very long, the screw portion of the bolts is very long, and you've got lock nuts, so you're gonna be working that nut a little bit to actually get it on there. But I'd rather have that than have the bolts too short. So that went up there fairly easily. Now it's a matter of making sure that everything's positioned the way that it needs to, and that you tighten up the bolts, get everything on straight. But just simply by the design of how this is put together, it's going to be fairly sturdy. Like I said, the construction is fairly robust. I didn't have any concerns about that. And I think this is going to work over very nicely. I like that it has the hooks on the corners that allows me to be able to hang rope and hang a chainsaw if I need to. It'll swing around a little bit as I'm traveling, but at least I'm not trying to carry it in my lap. At this point, we're essentially done. It's assembled. I need to go back and, give it the old, hey, is it tight check? Went back and I looked at the directions one last time, make sure that there wasn't something that I was missing, but I didn't see anything. Looked good. It's on pretty tight. It moves a little bit, but nothing rattling. Made sure the little wing nuts up at the top are where they need to be. Now those straps there for the shovel brackets, I don't know if I'm going to leave those on there or not, but for now, yes. So this is what it looks like. I'm pretty happy. Again, I picked this up on Amazon. Relatively inexpensive for a tractor accessory. If you feel like getting it, I encourage you to do so. I'm pretty happy personally.